As we navigate through the complexities of life, we find ourselves constantly making choices that often reflect the delicate balance between our emotions and our logical reasoning. But have you ever wondered how these two forces work together within the labyrinth of the brain? How do we feel joy and sadness while simultaneously assessing situations with calculated precision? Today, we unravel one of the greatest mysteries of human cognition, the interplay of emotion and logic within the structure of the brain. Join me as we journey through the brain's intricate networks, exploring how it orchestrates the dance between passion and reason. The harmony of emotion and logic, exploring the brain's architecture and its impact on human behavior. The human brain is the most complex organ in our body, containing billions of neurons connected by trillions of synapses. It governs not only our basic survival functions but also higher order processes like emotion, memory, and reasoning. Among its myriad roles, the brain performs a delicate balancing act between emotion and logic, which shapes our decisions, reactions, and relationships. While emotions may seem to be irrational and raw, and logic cold and detached, both are vital for well-rounded decision-making. Understanding how these forces interact within the brain gives us profound insight into the nature of human behavior. 1. The brain's emotional center. The limbic system. At the heart of our emotional responses lies the limbic system, a collection of structures that includes the amygdala, hippocampus, hypothalamus, and parts of the prefrontal cortex. These regions are involved in the regulation of emotions, memory, and learning. The amygdala, often referred to as the brain's emotional center, the amygdala is crucial for processing emotions such as fear, anger, and pleasure. When we encounter a threat or emotionally charged situation, the amygdala is activated almost instantaneously, triggering an emotional response before the rational mind has time to catch up. It plays a pivotal role in survival, alerting us to danger through fear responses but also guiding social interactions through emotions like empathy and affection. The hippocampus. This structure is deeply involved in forming memories and associating them with emotional significance. It helps us recall events not only based on factual details but also the feelings we experienced at that time. Emotions, after all, serve as powerful memory enhancers. The hypothalamus. This small but mighty structure controls many bodily functions such as hunger, thirst, and the release of hormones. It links the nervous system to the endocrine system and plays a major role in how emotions trigger physiological responses. Think sweaty palms during a stressful situation or a racing heart when you're excited. 2. The brain's logical center. The prefrontal cortex. On the other side of the equation is the prefrontal cortex, PFC, located at the very front of the brain. It is this area that we associate with logic, reasoning, planning, and decision-making. The prefrontal cortex enables us to think abstractly, weigh consequences, and override impulsive emotional reactions. Executive function. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for what scientists call executive functions. These are the higher order processes that allow us to manage complex cognitive tasks like prioritizing, strategizing, and controlling impulses. This is the part of the brain that steps in when we're trying to control an emotional outburst or decide between competing options. Moral and ethical reasoning. Interestingly, it is within the prefrontal cortex that we find our capacity for moral reasoning. It helps us assess ethical dilemmas, think about long-term consequences, and choose actions that align with our values. Without the prefrontal cortex, we would be governed entirely by emotional responses, with little capacity for foresight or self-control. 3. The dynamic interaction between emotion and logic. The interaction between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex is constant and dynamic. These two regions of the brain must communicate effectively for us to make sound decisions that are not only logical but also emotionally resonant. The tug-of-war between emotion and logic. When faced with a decision, our brain essentially conducts a tug-of-war between emotional impulses from the amygdala and rational deliberation from the prefrontal cortex. Take, for instance, a heated argument with a loved one. While the amygdala might flood you with anger or frustration, your prefrontal cortex intervenes, reminding you of the long-term consequences of harsh words. This interplay is essential for emotional regulation. The role of neurotransmitters. Key to this interaction are neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which modulate mood and cognitive function. Dopamine, for example, is heavily involved in the brain's reward system and helps us feel pleasure, while serotonin regulates mood and social behavior. These chemicals ensure that emotional experiences and rational thoughts are integrated within the brain's vast networks. 4. The neuroscience of balance. Emotional intelligence. Achieving balance between emotion and logic is the hallmark of emotional intelligence, EQ, a concept that has gained considerable attention in recent years. EQ refers to our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as to empathize with the emotions of others. This skill requires a well-coordinated effort between the prefrontal cortex and limbic system. Self-regulation. Emotional intelligence allows individuals to manage impulsive feelings and behaviors. When you feel the surge of an intense emotion, like anger or sadness, it is emotional intelligence that enables you to pause, reflect, and choose a measured response rather than an impulsive reaction. Empathy, or the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, arises from the interaction between these brain regions. Research has shown that the amygdala, which helps us recognize emotions in others, works in tandem with the prefrontal cortex, which allows us to reflect on those emotions and respond in thoughtful ways. 5. Applications. How understanding brain mechanisms enhances life. The knowledge of how emotion and logic interact in the brain has practical applications in everyday life. Whether in leadership, relationships, or personal development, striking a balance between these two forces can lead to better outcomes. In leadership, leaders who are aware of their emotional reactions and can modulate them with logical thinking are often more effective. They make decisions not only based on data but also consider the emotional climate of their teams, fostering loyalty and trust. In relationships, understanding the brain's emotional mechanisms can enhance relationships by promoting better communication. Instead of reacting emotionally during conflicts, individuals who engage their prefrontal cortex are more likely to listen, empathize, and resolve issues calmly. The brain, with its remarkable ability to blend emotion with logic, reveals the core of what makes us human. As we've seen, neither emotion nor reason dominates our lives independently. Instead, they form an intricate partnership, guiding our choices, shaping our behaviors, and influencing how we connect with the world. By deepening our understanding of the brain's emotional and logical systems, we not only gain insight into ourselves but also unlock the potential for wiser, more compassionate living. The next time you face a critical decision or an emotional challenge, remember that your brain is a marvel of balance, finely tuned to help you navigate the complexities of life.